Hi, this is Laura from Grain & Company. Today's tutorial is on our Shiplap circle frame sign. We'll go through all of the steps from beginning to end, show you how to complete it. Alright, so in your kit you will have your background, you will have a frame, you will have two inner pieces, as well as you will have your two designs. And your stand. Today I'm just going to go through one design just so you can get the process in which to do it. So in the kit picture you will notice that the inner frame and your stand are stained. You will have your background you will paint. You can paint this background whatever color you like as well, and then the design sitting in the template, you're only worried about the design itself. The outer part is just to hold the pieces and to help paint your design. So I'm going to get started on staining these pieces. So I'm just going to move this out of the way and we'll get started. So for this one I'm going to use our color called Weathered Oak. So we use water-based stains. You can wear gloves just to help keep your hands a little cleaner. So you will have a foam brush in your kit and you'll use that for staining. Now you only need to stain one side, so you'll see one side might be better than the other, so that's what I would just stain, and you don't have to worry about the sides at all. So just give it a slight dip in your stain, and I like to turn it on its side and wipe it on. You want the surface to be slightly damp so that way when you go to wipe it, it will blend evenly. If you do it too dry, then it may not even out. So I'm just taking the initial wipe and then I'm just going to get my gloves off of there and there. So that is all that needs to be done, and then we'll sand it after. So that's done. And actually for the bases we're going to paint them black. You can stain them, but I did say I was staining them, but we are going to paint them black. Alright, so put the stain away and we will come back to these after then. So I'm going to paint this background white. So you can do it a couple different ways, whatever you're comfortable with. You can use a brush, or you can use the makeup sponges that come in the kit. I'll do one coat one way and one the other. You'll also need a toothpick so that way you can help clean out that shiplap line once you get painting. So use the foam wedge, give it a good dip of paint, and I like to start in the middle so I can push my paint out, and as you get to the edge you kind of want to lift your foam wedge so that way you're not getting paint down the sides. Now your first coat will not look very good because you are trying to get that on. It won't be as even. Your second coat will kind of solid that up, so don't put it on too heavy on the first one because you will do two, at least for white. If you're doing a different color, you may only need one, but if you get paint on the side, you can easily try and sand it off. You can also use a black or brown paint pen, or even just some black and brown paint, and gently paint any white or color that you get on the sides. To me, if I get it on there and I just have to sand it off, it doesn't bother me at all. It's a little distressed and I like it that way, so. Okay, so once you're done that first coat, just put your foam wedge in a bag or something. It does tend to dry out fairly quickly, so just keep it away out of the air. And then just take your toothpick or skewer and just run that through those lines. It'll make a little mess with the paint. It'll want to push it out, which is fine. Once we're done later, we'll sand it so it's nice and smooth. Okay, so this one is done for now. So we're just gonna let that dry, and that won't take very long. Okay, so the next part I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a coat of white on here as well. Now your background piece can be of a color, and then do a contrasting color for your design. I'm doing a white background and a colored design. So I will continue on with this. When you're painting, you'll notice lines in your wood. That's called the grain, and you always want to paint in that direction if you can. It looks more natural. And as you're grabbing it, just careful you don't get paint on your fingers and then it touches the side. So having a paper towel close is always handy. I'm trying to do most of my dabbing in the middle because I have just a little bit more paint than I want, so that way when I take it to the edge, I'm not taking all that paint with me. And okay, so that one is done as well. So we're gonna move that one off to the side. And I'm just gonna quickly go grab some black paint. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back with the black. So you need to do both sides because when you put them together, they will stand, and so you'll see all sides. So we'll just, and you can stain them whatever you find easiest. I just would like the black. So I'm just gonna take off some of that paint, and then I'm going to just dab. Now this one is really nice to work with the black because then you won't see if you get it on the edges. So, but you don't want to be too heavy, so just blot off all that extra. Go in there. I would suggest doing 2 coats rather than 1, just so you don't put any more on there than you need to. And I'm not going to do both sides right now. I'm only going to do the one side, let that dry, flip it over, do the other side, and just go back and forth until you are done. So this piece will take you more times to work on than the rest. So just let that dry and then put your little foam wedge in the bag. So once you're done that, you can come back to this one. It's already dry, so I'm going to give it a sand. So you'll have your 400 grit sandpaper. It's for smoothing your finish. So this one's going to be fairly rough. So sand with the grain. You want to make it buttery smooth. So if you take off a little bit of the paint, that's fine. You really want to make sure those wood fibers are knocked right down. Okay, so it's nice and smooth. Use your hand to feel for any texture, and then take your paper towel, one that's preferably clean, and then give that a wipe. Okay, and while I'm at it, I'm just going to sand this one as well because it is dry too. Okay, once again, give that a wipe, and then go back to doing your second coat of paint. So this time I'm going to show you how to do it with a brush. Okay, so get some paint on, and once again, start in the middle. And then as you approach that edge, you want to kind of lift your brush. And then I tend to do that one section all at once. So that way, when I'm done, I can kind of gently even that out, and then I won't have any overlap marks. White tends to show that the most. So just work in smaller sections, so that way when your paint isn't drying before you do the other side. Otherwise you'll see these overlap marks in between. So I don't have too much paint on there, just enough to get me some movement. Just keep turning it back and forth. If you find it kind of dragging, then just grab a little bit more paint, because that's, your paint is starting to dry, and then just even that out. Come back again. Actually, I'm going to start up here. Getting a little paint in that hole, but don't worry about that. Nothing's going to go in that hole except for your finger to push out your pieces when you need to change it. So, all right, there we go. All right, once again, take your skewer and run it through those lines. Now, depending on what you like, you might find that you want to do a third coat. So don't judge your the coverage until it's dry, because your paint will always darken. So let that dry, and then you can decide after you sand whether or not you want another coat. Once again, I'm gonna do this one, and you really only need to paint the one side. You don't need to do both. Okay, and then just finish up. And then let that one dry. Okay, and if you can, put your paintbrush in a bag so it doesn't dry out black. We can come back over here and grab your sandpaper. Anytime you sand black, it kind of dulls it a bit and takes that dark black color, but that's only one coat, so we'll even solid it up a bit more after. So I'm going to grab my paper towel, and we're gonna do another coat. Once again, dabbing. So that's that. Okay. There, okay, that's the first coat on the second side. So while that's waiting, I'm going to do the design. Put that away, make sure you guys can see that. Okay, so with the design, we tape off the front, so when it comes out of the machine, all those pieces don't fall out, but you really need to put a piece of tape on the back because we need to remove the piece of tape on the front, and once we do that, all your pieces will fall out, but it's easier to paint if you can hold it in its template. So do that, and then you can pull that off. If you don't tape the back, then they will tend to bounce around, and this is just easier for that. See, and I didn't tape that spot, so I'm gonna go back in there, so that way. Now on the back of these, you will have adhesive, so that's how they'll stick on. All right, so for this one, I'll just put my white away, black. This one I'm going to do a color called Sacred Sage, and I need another wedge. Okay, so take some paint. This time you're going to need to still blot it, most of it off, so it's pretty dry. You don't want any paint going down the sides, otherwise your pieces will get stuck in there. All right, see, I pressed so hard that it popped right out. So obviously tape that well enough. So actually I'm just going to turn that over. A little more tape. There we go. Okay. So don't worry about that inner piece if it came out. We're not going to need it at all, even when we're putting it together, so that's totally fine. That one's coming out too. All right. That is done, your first coat. So we're just going to set that off to the side. And now I'm going to go back to my white, give it another sand. So you're just going to keep repeating this process until you get all of your pieces done, and then you're going to come back and I will show you how to layer it. So I'm going to leave you for now because I've shown you all of the steps, and I'll come back when it's ready to put together. Okay? Okay, so I'm done all my pieces. I did a third coat on here as well as here, and they're nice and smooth. My frame is dry. I didn't sand it yet, so take your sandpaper and gently go around the edge. It's kind of hard to sand that one in the grain, so just do your best. And whoops, and then you can wipe away all of the dust. If you want to distress it a little bit, then go ahead and distress those edges. Okay, and then give it a wipe. Okay, there we go. Now this one, in between coats, I did sand it very lightly, and I'm going to do it again. And you also want to make sure that those pieces haven't set in place. If they are, it's because you put too much paint and it dripped down the side. So that is good there. My bottom pieces are just dried up, so I'll finish those after. So I'll show you how to assemble. So you will take your frame. This hole is not exactly center, so don't line it up with that. With your frame, if you can, try and get your grains to go side to side. Now, there is no adhesive on the back of this one, so you will need a wood glue or a super glue, and then let that dry. So I'm just going to use some super glue on here. Now you're just going to center this ring within this shiplap back. So one's pretty fast drying, so I'm going to get my head in the camera, which I will edit out after. Right. Okay, and once you've got it in place, then just press it down and let that set. Okay, and we're just going to let that dry, and then we will do this. So once again, if you can, get your lines going side to side, and now you can take your tape off the back of this. So we need all those pieces to come out. There we go. All right. So make sure you don't lose any of the pieces. You only need your words. So H. Oh, no. Oh, hello. There we go. Oh, hello. Make sure you get the right pieces with the right, there you go. And then we've got the L here, and so if it helps you put them, lay them out in the order that they will need to be placed, because sometimes you need to figure out which piece exactly fits in there. Like I wouldn't want to put that in upside down. So anyway, so line this up so your grains are going side to side, and center this over that piece. Now for the first one, just so it doesn't move, you're gonna kind of want to hold it in place. So I'm just gonna stick one of these O's in here. It's kind of in the middle, so it's easier for it not to twist. So on the back, like I said, there is adhesive, so you'll want to peel off that backing, which I've just done there, and then you're going to set this into place. So just hold that, make sure it's even, and then drop that into place and press. And then I'm going to put another one opposite that, so I don't have to worry about it twisting on me. And then once it's locked in place, then you can just go ahead and put your pieces in. So now it's not going to move, it's going to stay right where I need it to. So depending on how your pieces are, sometimes you got really thin, tiny ones, so just be careful when you're peeling off your backing that you're not breaking them. If you have to, lay it on the table and then peel it off that way so you have a bit more control. Do that and press that one in. Piece. So once this is done, then you'll lift it off, and now your pieces are perfectly in position. This should be dry now, so this would fit in here. So that's how that goes. And then to pop it out for changing, then you're going to put your finger in the back and pop that out, and then you can replace it with the other piece or other designs. All right, this is done now. I'm gonna sand it again. So once you sand, if you want that rich black color, then I would say just leave it. If you start sanding on the black, it will kind of dull a little bit. You can always just take a very light damp cloth and just help wipe some of the dust that way. Alright, so this assembles, take your bottom piece to the top piece, fit them in the slots, there we go, and then they stand, they connect like that. Alright, and then once you're done, this is hard for you guys to see in that direction, so I'm just going to lay it down. So then your piece sits in the stand, and then you will put your piece in there like that. So some of them might be just a little snug, just be patient when you are pushing them out, but yeah, so that's it. And that's how that works for all of the pieces in the kit. Once you get the kit base, then you can go ahead and purchase other designs for in the center, and you can change it seasonally. Okay, all right, thanks guys.